We are live, everyone. Welcome back to the Reason podcast. We are missing Darren today, but hopefully us three can live up to the standard. We have joining us for the first time Dr. Roger Gewolb, who is another fantastic commentator, and as usual, Alex Armstrong. Hopefully you're not bored of him yet. We're going to be talking through lots of top stories today. We've got Tommy Robinson's court case being thrown out. We've got more two-tier policing after St. George's Day chaos. We've very sadly seen a stabbing at a school in Wales. And make sure you stay to the end for us to talk about the Rwanda bill, which has, to some people's surprise, finally been passed. Never thought that would go through. But there we go. And before we go into the stories, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. We hit 100k. Whoop whoop. So welcome anyone who is a new subscriber. If you're watching this and you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe so that we can see you in the next video. So moving on to our first story, let's get right into it. Tommy Robinson has been cleared of refusing to leave anti-Semitism march after Met Police paperwork error. So just a bit of context, back in November, Tommy Robinson went along to a march against anti-Semitism, even though the organisers said that they did not want him there. He said he was there in the capacity of a journalist. Nevertheless, the police arrested him, said that he wasn't allowed in the area. And as you may remember, we had that photo of Tommy Robinson being pepper sprayed by the police, which a lot of people may have thought was a bit harsh treatment. Now, Tommy Robinson's case has been thrown out by the courts today. This is him coming out of the court. And what was the reason why? Well, actually, the main reason is because the inspector that put in place this Section 35 order saying he needed to get out the area, he put the wrong date on it. He put 24th of November when it was meant to be 26th of November, and that made it invalid. We've got a bit of explanation on this in the article from The Independent. Tommy Robinson has been cleared of refusing to leave Westminster after he was arrested during an anti-Semitism march last November. Comes after the Met Police senior officer who signed the dispersal order admitted it may not have been lawful after he used the wrong date on the paperwork. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. Just shows how incompetent the Met Police are. These inspectors, it's only an inspector that's allowed to do the orders because they're so serious. They couldn't even put the right date on. So he was told there is no case to be heard. So quite an easy win in that sense. Now, Roger, let's go to you first. Roger, do you think that the way that Tommy Robinson was handled by the police, him being arrested here, do you think that this was too harsh, or do you think it was fair for them to use this order on the basis that he was likely to spark chaos at this march?
Well, I think that before we go there, I mean, anybody can make a mistake, and I'm not trying to make excuses for our current style of policing, but anybody can put the wrong date down. But what really gets me is the journalist in the article you just wrote, who wrote that he was arrested during an anti-Semitism march. No, he was arrested during an anti-Semitism march.
You could have got that one.
It really conveys
right.
the wrong idea. Yeah, I suppose, it is the two-tiered policing. If they're going to let the Saturday demonstrators perform as they do for whatever it is now, 6 months, then I think that until he actually breaks the law, people like Tommy Robinson should be allowed to have their say at a march. The organizers did ask him not to come, but hey, it's a free country, so I'm not too troubled by it. And frankly, at this stage, the people arguing against anti-Semitism, frankly, it's so unreasonable what's going on. They can use all the help they can get.
Yeah, so just going back to you, Alex, Roger has said that it's a free country. If Tommy wants to come and say what he thinks, even if the organisers say he shouldn't be there, he should be allowed. But this Section 35 order that we have under the law, supposedly this order says that even if the police don't suspect Tommy to start causing violence and causing a breach of peace, as they might call it, if they think that his presence can cause someone else to start a stir and a breach of peace, then they have a right to arrest him or create an order telling him to leave the area. Do you think that is that power shouldn't exist? Should we abolish that section?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've said this a few times before on our show, Chloe. It's a really difficult balance to find because what you said, well, there are other actors at protests that I would very, very happily get the police to say, shut that down right now. Get these people out of their sort of little crowd of people that are causing a lot of trouble, particularly when we see what's going on in these hate marches on the weekends every weekend for the last month. So that does worry me. So it's really hard under the law to find that balance where we treat people fairly, because that's all. But that being said, it is really clear to me that the police are keeping tabs on Tommy's whereabouts, and that whenever he does pop up, they are very quick to arrest him, because he can't even attend a protest. He can't even attend a St. George's Day celebration without being arrested. And are there grounds for that? Are there grounds to say wherever Tommy Robinson goes, he creates trouble? I don't think that's fair. I think they are making assumptions. And if they made those same assumptions about the hate marches, well, they wouldn't be going ahead anymore. So we are seeing that two-tier policing system say, well, it's okay to arrest Tommy Robinson and get his, shut down his freedom of speech because he's, white, English, and maybe controversial. But when, we had the Eid riots, well, they weren't shut down. The police just stood there and took missiles being thrown at them.
Absolutely. So we've had clips from these. I don't know if you've seen these, Roger, but we had these riots break out during the Eid celebrations where rubbish bags were being thrown at police officers, and the police just sort of stood there and didn't really do anything. Meanwhile, when it comes to Tommy Robinson, or we'll go on to shortly after this what happened on St. George's Day, the police seemed to go in all guns blazing. We saw Tommy Robinson be arrested for going out to brunch with his daughter. Apparently him being in London is dangerous enough as it is, which, I know that Tommy Robinson has past criminal convictions and he's been in prison and he's got controversial views, but I don't think that Tommy Robinson being in London going out for lunch with his daughter warrants an arrest. I think it's absolutely out of proportion. Let's have a look before we move on to a couple of comments. They are coming in like crazy. It's hard to keep up. Keep them coming in though, people. We love to hear from you. So let's have a look. So let's add to broadcast. If I can figure out how to add these comments in. So we've got Michael John Dennis says the Met Police are one-sided and are woke. I would probably agree with that. We've got, let's see these comments if I can actually keep them in order. We've got Ian says it is obvious that the police are harassing Tommy. People need to hear held to account for this through the courts. Okay, so that's an interesting one. Roger, you've got a bit of a legal background, haven't you? Do you think it is possible for the officers that wrongly did this to Tommy Robinson to themselves face justice?
Sure, absolutely. If they've broken the law, yeah. I mean, and they're in some respects legally they're held to a higher standard than ordinary citizens because of the training that they're given and because of the responsibility and the obligations that are bestowed upon them in dealing with the public. So they're held to a higher standard. But I mean, the whole thing is just askew. It's madness. It's Alice in Wonderland. It's turned upside down. I blame Rishi Sunak, James Cleverly, Sadiq Khan, and Sir Mark Rowley, and I'd very much like to see the back of all of them as fast as possible. The way they are handling this is simply appalling. I mean, this Gideon Falter cannot walk across the street because of the trouble that might be caused by a demonstration that goes on every week. Now, it goes on every week because it's peaceful. Well, if it was peaceful, then why would there be an issue about anybody walking across the street? It's just insane.
Exactly, and we'll go to that video now. So just for any viewers that haven't seen this, we had Gideon Falter, who is the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, told that if he didn't leave the area at a pro-Palestinian march on Saturday, that he would be arrested on the basis of being openly Jewish. So let's take a look at this clip.
You are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction to it now. You're being escorted out of this area so you can go about your business, go where you like freely, or if you choose to remain here, because you are causing a breach of peace with these other people, you will be arrested. And we'll discuss this with you.
If I remain here, you will arrest me.
Because your presence here is antagonising a large group of people that we can't deal with all of them. If they attack you, or if they because your presence is antagonising. That's it.
Keep going before you get arrested.
Watching your movement. That's right. This man's saying he's going to start following me around watching my movement. That's right. We're all going to watch your movement and record you. Wait. No. The police ain't going to help you in this scenario.
Shocking video there. Now, before we react to that, I'm just going to quickly show what happened at St. George's Day. There's no sound on this one, but what happened here is really hard to tell from the little clips that you see on Twitter. Everything was perfectly peaceful and fine, and you had all these people with throwing them flags walking down the street, and suddenly, seemingly for no reason, the police sort of made a barrier with the cars and themselves making a line, and everyone was waiting for ages to continue walking down the street, and the police were stopping them, and no one really understood why. So hence people got a bit agitated because it just didn't make sense to them. So some of them tried to get through the police and walk through, and hence it all broke out. And they went in all guns blazing and brought in the horses, which to me seemed a little bit over the top. You know, you can imagine it's quite easy there for one of the horses to step on someone's toes, and you know that would quite easily break your foot. So Alex, let's go to you first. Do you think that this is two-tier policing, or do you think that what the police did on St. George's Day, pushing against the crowd like that with the horses, do you think that that was perfectly reasonable?
I mean, you've just got to look at what happened at the Eid protests. I know we've already sort of covered at the Eid riots, but if you look at what they did there and how the police responded to that situation versus how they responded to a St. George's Day potential riot, and there's always bad actors, no matter what side you're on. There's people who are going to go and cause trouble. You could be there with the greatest intentions in the world, but there's always going to be people that cause trouble. And look at the way the police responded to the troublemakers on St. George's Day as opposed to how they responded in the Eid riots. In the Eid riots, they were very, very happy to just stand there and have rubbish and missiles thrown at them. When it comes to St. George's Day, the police are there with their batons, with the protesters or the troublemakers, battering them, running horses into children who are around that area. The British people very clearly happening in London. When we talk about two-tier policing, we talk about force, we talk about the way that they respond, we talk about and it's very clear to see the police were very happy to use force and respond and kettle people in, but they weren't happy to do that in Oldham.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone might push back, Alex, and they might say when the police are at a pro-Palestinian march, you've got so many people there that the police they have to take a back step because there's no way that they'd have the numbers to handle a crowd that big. So they don't want to provoke the crowd in that sense. But at this event, they had a much smaller crowd, which maybe they felt it was much easier for them to control the crowd. So hence they could take action when there was an outbreak. Do you think that justifies it?
No, I think, look, you can't choose how to respond based on the people, the amount of response based on environment, based on the people, or you don't have a response at all. You can't just pick and choose, well, it's a small group of people, so we're going to just sit here and take missiles being thrown at us. Oh, there's a large group of people, so we're going to go and be violent and attack them. That doesn't sound like good process and procedure or good policy for the Met Police to follow. You know, we have to be really the same way we try to treat everyone fairly under the law. If we're not going to uphold the values of being treated equally, no matter what your race is, your religion, your creed, then surely the Met Police should be abiding by that same philosophy. To me, it smells of, don't worry, and they won't complain and nothing will change. But if we do this for the hate marches, the pro-Palestine marches, there's going to be hell to pay, because we know that they're going to accuse us of racism, which is really what we're talking about here. It's the accusation the police don't like to have.
Yeah. Now, Roger, do you think that the police, rather than enforcing the law fairly, they're often just going for the easiest target? So not only did we have, in the Gideon Falter scenario, them trying to get Gideon Falter to leave the area, even though he's done nothing wrong, because he's easier to control than the big crowd. We've seen this time and time again. So we had an individual holding up a sign that says Hamas are terrorists, which is the government line. The government says they're a prescribed terrorist organisation. And you had people throwing sticks at this guy, throwing soil at this guy, screaming and shouting at him, who were clearly, those people were in the wrong, but the police took away the guy with the Hamas a terrorist sign because it's easier to deal with one person than it is to deal with a crowd. But don't you think, Roger, that maybe that's a bit unfair to make the person in the right look like a criminal by taking them away rather than taking on the bigger task of dealing with the big crowd?
I think that Sunak and Cleverly and Sadiq Khan and Mark Rowley either are unintelligent enough to see or don't care about the British public enough to do something about this gross unfairness. It's complete. I don't care what side you're on, okay? It's just, this is this country that unfair, all fair it used to be. And this is simply outrageous. Yes, they're taking the easy option. I think that any group that had these marches in the way these are going on would very quickly receive a communication from the Met saying, I'm sorry, there are too many people who are going to be present for us to maintain proper policing and control. We are limiting you to 10,000 people. The idea that anybody who wants to come, just come on the streets and throw things and yell and all the rest of this stuff. It's just amazing that they choose one group, whichever group you're in favor of. It's unbalanced, as you say, as Alex said. It's not fair, and I blame our quote unquote leaders for it. I think that the other thing I want to say is this is not Muslims. This is not all Muslims. This is like the IRA. This is a small number of people who are doing. I have Muslim friends who are so embarrassed. They say to me that ordinary white Brits now glare at them in the street. They don't like going out. Okay, what Mann and Sunak and Cleverly and the rest of these geniuses need to realize is this is affecting everybody. Okay, these have been sometimes months now, so they haven't been banned the way they were in those countries, but it's still carrying on the way that police say they can't control it. How many other situations do you think the Metropolitan Police would allow to happen that they can't control? I've been here a long time. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it is unbalanced, as you say, Roger. We'll just have a look at a little bit more of the detail of what happened with Gideon Falter. Now, Rishi Sunak, he did say that he still has faith in Sir Mark Rowley after this. Let me just get up the equivalent stuff because that is still on. So we had this.
Well, he's got faith in all 5 of his points, none of which he's delivered on.
That's true, but that's another can of worms that we could we won't go down that route. So Britain's Jews fear for their lives because Sir Mark Rowley is a weak coward. Alex, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. It's gone too far now, hasn't it? I think the vast majority of British people in this country have any faith left in the Metropolitan Police. I think they'd happily see the whole thing disbanded. Let's not forget that the Met Police is in special measures and has been for some years now. God knows what that's going to probably the Labour Party get in and go, you're cleared of all your charges, you're cleared of having to do anything differently. At the end of the day, you can't be arresting anybody, particularly people who are just crossing the street who happen to be wearing, their religious garments, and say you're antagonizing people who are protesting because you're Jewish. What country do we live in? This isn't North Korea, the last time I checked. Correctly identified, as you've said as well, Chloe, we're living in this bizarre country where you've got the Prime Minister, a conservative Prime Minister, a conservative Home Secretary saying, this is all okay. The house isn't on fire. Don't worry, guys. This is perfectly normal. This is not normal. Even under, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but even under New Labour, did you ever see this kind of insanity happen? Even under Tony Blair, we never saw this kind of nonsense. So this just goes to show, and I'm sure the viewers of Reason today will agree, how far left the Conservative Party have become, where they're weak on law and order, they're weak when it comes to policing. And this is why so many people are flocking to other parties, particularly Conservatives flocking to Reform UK.
Exactly. The Conservatives are not really conservative anymore, it would seem. And you're right, Alex, that it seems like something from North Korea that's going on. I mean, I posted saying, are we in 1930s Germany or are we in 2024 Britain? Because it can easily seem like the former from that video. Now, a lot of people have pushed back against that video with Gideon Falter, saying, actually, you don't know the whole context. He wasn't just there to cross the street. He was there to cause a bit of a fuss with his campaign. But I would agree with what this article says, which is whether or not Falter was there deliberately to make a point about the safety of Jews in London is neither here nor there. The point was well made. For the Met, keeping the peace now appears to mean whisking the openly Jewish away in case peaceful protesters get antagonised and decide to tear them limb from limb. Sorry, that is not law and order. Yeah. It is craven appeasement. So I think regardless, if the Met Police had said, we want you to leave the area because we think that you're going to say things to these people that's going to antagonise them, or something along that line, okay, maybe I would give them a little bit more benefit of the doubt. But their reasoning was, you are openly Jewish, which is clear as day what they meant. It is blatantly anti-Semitic, if you ask me, and if the crowd is antagonised by someone being openly Jewish, that is because they are anti-Semitic. There is no other explanation for that. I had one more thing from this article that I wanted to show. Oh, so we've got Mark Rowley's response to this. This is laughable. Defiant Sir Mark insisted that while the use of the term openly Jewish was clumsy and offensive, his officers were handling a difficult situation well. Roger, do you think it was handling a difficult situation well?
Well, first of all, I want to say I don't want to engage in name calling. I don't go along with calling him a weak coward. I'm sure he's not a weak coward. I think there are political forces at play here that are causing all of these folks to act the way they're acting, and I don't think we're really familiar with them all. But it's unacceptable and inexcusable. He is definitely handling a difficult situation. To say they were handling it well is a joke. They handled it about as poorly. I mean, can you imagine a black person wanting to cross the street through a crowd having a white supremacist march? Well, I mean, first of all, the white supremacist march wouldn't be allowed. And secondly, if it was, can you imagine a policeman saying you can't go there? And, if they said it's because they might turn violent on you, sir, then that march shouldn't have been allowed in the first place.